Simply Centrell. She will ignite your passion and bring your purpose to life. The strategy she shares will take you to higher heights, improving your energy, spirituality, your well-being, a better mindset for your journey to build a better you. She's on fire to take you higher. She's on fire to take you higher. The Simply Centrell Show.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Simply Centrell Show. I am so excited to be right here with you guys. It has been a minute right here in the studio. So we are talking about after the storm, recovery plan time. So it has been a while, and we know that there have been a lot of things going on. You have not missed the show, though. We have had the opportunity to share with you what's been going on from being out on the scene. Everything that's happened with Hurricane Harvey here in Houston and all of the recovery efforts that have taken place, all of the people that have come together and what they have done to bring Houston back to a place of rebuilding. So before we get started in today's show, I just want to make sure that I thank everyone that was a part of putting it together. There is a team of wonderful individuals. They bring their expertise and they help us to bring the messages to you, bring the people to you, and then also do this on an amazing platform with KLVL and the Synergy platform. So thank you. The other thing I want to invite you to do is like, share, follow at Simply Centrell, and we will be using the hashtag recovery plan for today's conversation. Now, we have a special guest with us today, Mr. Warren Winston, and he is a business advisor with the MBDA. That's the Minority Business Development Agency here in Houston. And so what we really wanted to do was talk not only about the personal recovery plan, we also want to talk about the business recovery plan. So let me go ahead and bring you in, Warren. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. How are you?
Awesome. I am great. We appreciate you coming. Warren, you have expertise as a business advisor. You are a mentor. You've done development and training, and you've even worked on some mastermind stuff. So having you here to represent Houston and some of the things that we're doing now to rebuild, to bring programs together, to bring funds together, which I know is really important to everyone out there. People are looking to get money now. Correct. So tell me about the MBDA and share with our listeners what that organization does here in Houston.
Absolutely. Okay. So the Minority Business Development Agency is an agency that is actually part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. Mm-hmm. Here locally in Houston, it is actually operated by Houston Community College. Mm-hmm. We are one of 40 centers in the United States. Houston is one of the top 10 centers. In the existence here in Houston, we've helped facilitate over $268 million in contracts, over $250 million in financial transactions, and helped to create 500 jobs. So we've been very instrumental in the arena when it was time, when everything was fine.
Right.
But we all know now that we've gone through some challenges.
Yes.
And those challenges are impacting lives daily, not only business owners, but the families of those business owners.
Absolutely.
And so our focus is going to be more of how do we add value, not only to just the businesses, but the stakeholders of those businesses.
Absolutely.
So
that's a good point. Mm-hmm. That is a good point. Well, adding value to the stakeholders of those businesses, who would you identify as the stakeholders?
Oh, very good question, because the reality is the stakeholders is not only just the family or their children.
Yes.
It's the community center. It's the neighbor next door. It's the grocery store. It's the cleaners. Yeah. It's the schools. Yeah. Everybody has a stake in the business and the success of that business.
Yes.
So we're focusing on not only just the business, but everybody that supports the business, everybody in the community, whether they are local or whether they are regional or whether they are national or international. Mm-hmm. has some a portion of the value of that business or that business being successful. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when we talk about storms, more often than not, we focus on the negative of a storm.
Yeah.
It's been said that about 25% of businesses do not bounce back.
Right.
And so while we can focus on the negative, let's focus on the positive things that can take place. And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Not only today, but in the days to come.
We appreciate that and you're right, because the conversations that we have participated in over the last couple of weeks have really been focused on the personal aspect. And not only the personal aspect, unfortunately, it's the daunting part, right? We sympathize, we understand, we have been impacted by the hurricane. There are a number of people around the world that are being impacted by hurricanes as we speak. Not only hurricanes, fires, other natural disasters are taking place and people are losing their lives, and they are talking about that personal aspect. And that's important because we need to recover from that. These things are not new. Unfortunately, there are things we've had to bounce back from in the past, and we have done it. We have shown that we can successfully move forward in life. And then you have those individuals who are in business, right? Maybe you're in business for yourself. You could work for a corporation that was impacted, and those corporations normally have the ability to bounce back. You know, they're larger, their infrastructure supports things like this, and they're able to revive themselves. So they don't fall into the 25%. What happens is those individuals out there that own their own business, and they cannot bounce back. And we participated in town hall meetings. I know that you've done the same, community meetings. All of the different organizations and individuals coming together are also looking for a way to address the business. And addressing the business does mean addressing the person, addressing the family, addressing taking care of what allows the family to thrive and to continue to move forward. And the bigger thing, I think, is that when you're a small business, you normally rely on a lot of other small businesses. Those are your clients. Those are the people that you're providing your products and your services to. And so when they're impacted, then you're impacted. So your income slows down because you're not able to bring in those revenues because they also have to rebuild. And we're not just talking about those individuals who are not able to take advantage of your service. We're talking about when you yourself have taken on damage, say from Hurricane Harvey. Maybe you had a storefront and it was damaged, and now you've got to go through insurance and things of that nature, and the money's not coming through fast enough so that you can provide service to your clients. So the message that we really want to drive home today, and I think it was appropriate that you said that here we are talking about the storms of life, right?
Correct.
And that we know that these things occur. What most people don't know is how they can actually fix it, address it, move forward. And that's what we want to talk about, is the recovery plan.
Absolutely.
Right? So tell us a little bit about yourself, because I gave a brief snippet, and before we get into all of this wonderful information we're going to share, I want everyone to know who Warren Winston is. So who are you? I already know you're bubbly, always laughing, always smiling, always have an encouraging word. Share with everyone out there who you are.
Well, Warren Winston is a person that in the daytime and throughout my career has focused on business and the value of business, the bottom line growth of business.
Yeah.
But the true value is people.
Yeah.
I focus on people. And with that being said, that's why I can sit down and say kudos to the city of Houston.
Yeah.
In the storm, the focus or the value, the true value of what has happened here is people valuing people.
Absolutely.
It's gotten to the point where we literally are being watched around the globe.
Yeah.
What's happening in Florida as we speak, we've set the precedence. When we take a look at, or if we go back as recently as 3 or 4 weeks ago, where people were not valuing people.
Yeah.
People were fighting amongst themselves and fighting amongst others. But it took a storm for people to come together. It didn't matter if you were black, white, pink, polka dot, rich, poor. It didn't matter.
Right.
People started valuing people.
Right.
And that's the true value that I focus on. That's what helps businesses succeed. That's what helps those stakeholders succeed.
Yeah.
because it's ultimately the greatest reward that we have as human beings here on earth.
Yeah. I like that. And I know that about you already. So I know that you are passionate about people and about helping people. So I think you're kind of right placed, right? To be at the MBDA, they are, you know, privileged to have you aboard, and we're privileged to have you here. So I know that we're going to share a number of things with folks later, and I think one of the first lessons that we have shared today is that storms do bring value, right?
Correct.
There are good things that come out of storms.
Absolutely.
Teaching us how to value people when we maybe weren't doing it before, and you're right. There were so many different things going on before we actually had this natural disaster here. I mean, there were other disasters going on in other parts of the world. We just weren't valuing each other. And I think that this was a reminder to be about each other's, you know, be about each other. Make sure that we are servicing one another. Make sure we're caring for one another, because we had forgotten that we were more alike than we are different. So when we come back from the break, we're going to get into that recovery plan that we talked about. Learn a little bit more about that. So we want to invite you guys to like, share, follow at Simply Centrell, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You're streaming live on simplycentrell.com, and you can also check out YouTube. We will be right back. Welcome back. We are here talking with Warren Winston from the Minority Business Development Agency, and we are talking about the recovery plan, right? And before we get into this a little bit more, I'm going to invite you guys to call in, because you might have questions. I know a number of you have dealt with just trying to figure out what resources are out there, and you may have a business, and you may have some specific questions you want to ask Warren about. 832-230-5592 is the number to call in. Please make sure that you pick up the phone, call in, ask the questions. We want to get you the resources that we can get you as soon as possible and while we're on this show. So when we left for the break, we were talking about the storm and some of the positive things that come out of a storm. And one of the things we talked about was the bringing of people together, which is important. There's so many other things that come out of that, though, right? We are able to become stronger when we go through storms. And that's all types of storms, right? Storms in life, whether you have gone through a hurricane or tornado, fires, a loss of a loved one, loss of a job. These are all storms of life. They are life events that shake us up. They really make us think, and they cause us to have to look inward to figure out what we're going to do next. How are we going to rebuild? It's not easy. There are other things that come out of storms too. And before we get at that, I believe we have someone calling in to ask a little bit about MBDA. So Shelley, you're on.
Hi. This question is going out to Warren Winston.
Yes.
Hi, Warren. A quick question. You know, feeling sad, and it's really bad about the storms that happen in Houston and in Florida, but how do we get the people to stop looting?
One of the things that's going to be important is, again, as communities, as stakeholders, we all have a vested interest in each other. I'll take a saying that it's that many people are aware of it. I am my brother's keeper. And because I am my brother's keeper, I'm going to focus on whatever I need to do to make sure that my brother's taken care of and everybody else. See, here's the challenge. There are times that we often turn a blind eye to things around us. And I agree with you. Looting is not helping the situation. It's only giving us a bad name collectively.
Exactly.
And it only hurts the people around them. If people really realized how much it impacts not only just themselves, but those around them, then I think they would think twice about it. The reality is, okay, you know what? We're not going to stand for this anymore. And I'm going to take exactly how the nation is seeing this, because I was not in Houston at the time. I was literally stuck in Florida before I got here. And there was such negative press about what was going on in Houston. In fact, it was, in many instances, they were trying to put this spin on the looting.
Yeah.
But what I see is because we are a cohesive unit, when we want to work together, that we are focusing on adding value to each other, when we're focusing on making sure that this is not on my watch, then all of a sudden it dissipates in that community. And so right now, you're responsible for not only you, but you're responsible for your neighbor. Your neighbor is responsible not only for himself or herself, they're responsible for the community. We're all watching out for each other, even to the point where the local grocery store, you can't accept that because it has an impact on the community.
Exactly.
So what I'm encouraging you to do, it's basically taking the saying, I'm not going to take this anymore. There are other folks within the community that are saying, you know what, we're not going to stand for this. We're not going to allow this. If that means you have to go to your councilman, if that means you have to go to the local precinct, if that means you have to go to your local community watch, if you're part of an HOA, let them know. We're not going to stand for this. Enough is enough. And only when we start to stand collectively, that's when we'll have the greatest stride. You know, I think of it as almost like a fist. When you have 5 fingers and they're all loose, you can break any finger at any given time. But you make a fist, you can't break those fingers. It comes together and it's a strong, cohesive unit. You can't have the same, you'll have more damage in fighting back than if you were to fight individually.
Interesting. I think that's really important. That's a really great question too, Shelley. I think that when you start looking at the reason for looting, because you have different reasons for it, right? It's definitely rooted in selfishness when people want to take things from others because they don't want to go and earn it themselves. And then there's also the desperation. You have times like this when people have had to evacuate their homes, and then someone sees it as an opportunity because they have also lost to now go and take things out of stores as opposed to going to places where those resources are available. Right. I think that's the thing that needs to be addressed first. What is the cause for doing looting? There's an emotional situation going on when someone goes after what someone else has because they need to protect and take care of themselves first. There are resources out there, and you have to look first to those resources before you do something that could definitely bring back some bad karma, because what happens is
what goes around comes around.
There you go. And karma is when you have done something wrong intentionally to someone else, you will definitely get it back. So great question, Shelley. We appreciate you calling in. Awesome. So, you know, it's amazing because that's one of the negatives that come out of situations like this, right? Looting, people stealing and destroying property because they're acting out, right? That happens. No one's saying that you don't have the right to be sad or have those emotions. What we're saying is there's a better way to channel. There's a better way to move forward. Those things are temporary because you still have not learned how to sustain yourself long term. You know, you've only learned how to take from someone else, which is a ripple effect, right? Now you have caused injury and harm and also sadness and all the feelings that you were feeling, which you thought gave you the right to do that. You've caused those things on another person. So those are some of the negative things. Some of the positive things, because we really have done a lot of focusing on those things that are just not good about natural disasters. And I really want people to understand that when we go through natural disasters, some good things come out. So we were talking about how much stronger we realize we are, right? You never know your strength until it's tested. And we realize that we're stronger, and we realize that we're stronger together, you know, talking about that fist, right? And then you realize that out of natural disaster comes ideas.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Ideas
like programs like the MBDA is putting out there, FEMA, SBA, you know, it makes people have to reach out in compassion. It makes the government have to reach into funds and provide and fund organizations that may not have been getting the funding that they were getting before. And then it creates jobs, right?
Absolutely.
So there are a number of people that are going to be going to work, and we know a number of people have lost their jobs. They were unable to go to work, and some of their jobs were open. They just weren't able to get there, right?
Right.
So now there are jobs that are created for situations like this because everyone needs help. And it gives you the opportunity to then maybe do something that you were already looking to do. I'm looking to give back, and maybe I'm looking to be in a job or a role that allows me to do that all day. And this is what is birthed out of some of these events.
In fact, if you take a look historically, when it comes to ideas and some of the greatest inventions and some of the greatest ideas in history, it generally came from some form of a disaster.
There you go.
Whether it was depression, whether it was a storm, didn't matter. Those are some of the greatest changes or the greatest impact that is taking place in history.
Right.
Not only in the United States, but in the world. So when we take a look at this, and again, we can't focus on the negative. We can spend the rest of our lives in the city of Houston and in the state of Texas and in the nation looking through the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
It's not going to help. You can't drive a car 80 miles an hour looking through the rear view mirror. We have to go looking through the windshield.
Yeah.
So let's look through the windshield. What's the next thing that we need to do?
Yeah.
So assess it. Let's start doing the assessment right now, assessing where we are.
Okay.
What do we need to do? What do we have to do to get to that next level in order for us to change what's going on in our lives and to move forward? And by the way, I said I was literally out of town. I was stuck. I wanted to come home, but I was stuck.
Yeah.
The nation was watching us.
Yeah.
But this is what they're saying about Houston right now. Houston is a city of hope.
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't said 3 weeks ago.
Right.
That wasn't said a month ago. It wasn't said a year ago. It took a storm for people to say, this is a city of hope.
Yeah.
Because things have changed. People are watching and seeing that they can make a difference. If they can do it in Houston, why can't they do it in Miami? Why can't they do it in Orlando? Why can't they do it in Atlanta? Why can't they do it in Chicago? Why can't they do it in any place in the United States or in the world?
Well, and you're right. And like you said, Houston provided an example for Florida, right? I'm sure plenty of people, I've seen it on social media, were saying, oh, by the way, don't forget to do this. Don't forget to do that. Make sure you check this. Make sure you check that, because Houston had already gone through it, right? And then you think about Katrina 12 years ago, Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, and guess what? Houston was able to respond better because they had that example. So in these experiences, we all learn to do something better. That is a positive. You have to have the experiences so you know what works and what does not work. So we look at that and we can be thankful that we did it better this time, and we'll do it better each time.
But we can't rest on our laurels that we're doing it better this time. We have to continue to grow and move forward. And one of the things that, there's a 5-step plan that I like to talk about.
You're talking about the recovery plan. Well, you already mentioned it. You already talked about the first step, which is to assess where you are and to assess what you have. And I think that assessing it is the most critical piece, because most people have been sitting in their sorrow.
Correct.
And understandably so. It has been sad. It has been very overwhelming. It's been emotional. It has been devastating. There are so many emotions that go along with it. We do have to step out of that at some point, because we have to get better. That's the only way that we're going to move forward. So we do have to assess the situation. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about a little bit more about the recovery plan, because we want people to be equipped with what they need. So join the conversation, like, share, follow at Simply Centrell. We are talking about the recovery plan. We'll be right back. We are back, and we want to thank you for tuning in to the Simply Centrell show. We are on Synergy 1480, the kind of talk that inspires, and we appreciate those of you who have called in and joined the conversation. 832-230-5592 for anyone who has a question and wants to pose that to Warren while we are talking about the recovery plan. So before the break, we talked about the first step. We kind of slipped it in there, right? And it is to assess where you are and what you have. And that's important, right?
Absolutely.
So tell us why that's important. Why assessing is so important.
Because in many instances, we have a tendency of not thinking everything through.
Yeah.
We start to suffer from what I call analysis paralysis. We look at a situation and we get stuck.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has happened.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I need to do to get out of it? First, I need to change my attitude. Changing my attitude will put me in a position that I become contagious, that I can make sure that I take care of everything around me and I can move forward. We have a tendency, though, many of us have a tendency, we look at the situation and we get this, woe is me.
Yeah.
I can't believe this happened to me.
It's hard.
And I'm saying this in life, but it happens in business. That's why businesses get stuck.
Yeah.
They get to this point where they focus on everything around them that's causing the challenge versus focusing on how to get out of the situation or the circumstance.
Gotcha.
So by assessing it, what we're doing is we're taking a look at what we have, what we need, and what we need to do to move forward.
Right.
Okay.
And I would even recommend writing it down.
Absolutely.
Right? A plan is nothing, right, until it's written down. So you're right. Start changing the way that you think about it. What do you have? And I think that kind of, I know that it kind of brings about that thankfulness. For me, when I think about what I already have, I start to realize I probably have a lot more than I originally thought because my focus has shifted, right? So what you have brings about thankfulness. And then you know what's already in your arsenal. You already know what's right there in your toolbox for you to use. You don't need to worry about what you have.
No, not at all.
Now what you need.
Correct.
That's the harder part.
That's the harder part.
Right.
Okay. So
because you have to be real with that.
Yes.
You have to be real about what you need. And in these times, that could be a lot. I mean, people have lost entire homes, cars, in some cases, loved ones, right? So you have to be real about what you need.
It's understood that we all have to focus on, there are times when we need to take that moment to go through that time, to grieve. But we can't get stuck in it. See, that's the challenge.
That is the
Many people get stuck, and we can't allow ourselves to be stuck. We have to move forward. We have to take that information, take what we've assessed, start to do the research of where we need to go so we can move into that next position, okay? And then from there, start to create that plan. You said write it down. I always have this saying, a short pencil beats a long memory. I need to write things down, okay, to make sure
I like that.
that I have things in place because we have a tendency, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Nope. Write it down so this way we can write that vision, make it plain, put it on that tablet. So once we read it, we can run with it.
I got you. So assess what you need, assess where you are, and make sure that you're writing it down. And then now you know what you need, right? You know what you have. You know what you need. Then the next step.
Take action. Action.
So
Start
we
to
need
move.
Yeah.
ACT. I have an acronym for ACT.
Yeah.
A is awareness.
Yeah.
C is for change. T is for take action.
Okay.
Awareness, change, take action. ACT. Start to move.
Yeah.
You're aware of what's going on. You've written it down. You've started to create a plan. Now let's start to take action.
Okay.
Get the right people around you.
Yeah.
Because it's not a me thing. It's a we thing at this point.
I like that. So now you need to take that action, and you know what you need. Now you got to go find out where it is. So some research is needed in there, right? There are a number of different agencies out there, and we're talking about natural disasters. We're talking about after the storm. So now you got to do some research, right? You need to see what's available for you to address the things that you need. And I think that this is the more important part. There are a lot of things out there on social media, and people are sharing all types of resources, and that's great. Some of those may apply to you. I would say don't just rest on what's in social media, right?
Correct.
There are a number of government agencies out there. Most people have a mobile phone. Most people have access to internet, or can go to a coffee house, or can get somewhere, or even know someone who does. This is the time where you now can reach out to people and say, hey, can you help me with researching something? Should you not have access to those different technologies and tools, you have to do the research, because there are programs out there. And as we said earlier, out of things like this, programs are created.
That's right.
And you're going to find them when you look for them.
That's right.
So put yourself in the mindset of addressing each one of those needs with a resource that fits it, right? So maybe you need finances.
Correct.
Maybe you need to address your physical well-being, right? We all sat in the house and ate those Hurricane Harvey snacks. Now, I'm not really happy about that. I'm going to tell you that when we went to the grocery store, I think we picked up more stuff on the shelf. It was almost like, I better get it in. I don't know what's going to happen. You picked up the cookies, you picked up all the salsa, the chips, all of those things, and you just sat in the house for days watching the news, right?
Correct.
And every time you saw something else on, then I can't believe it just flooded. Hand me the chips and salsa. Hand me the cookies. And that was all day. And you filled yourself with not the best food and also not the best images. It's the truth of what was going on. And we use the food to kind of comfort us, right? So now we've got to take care of that. We've got to take care of the physical.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And we also have to help ourselves mentally because of all the things we took in. So there are resources out there for your financial.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that with MBDA a little bit later because I want you to share some of those different things that are available. The physical, that's the walking. The weather, one of the other things Hurricane Harvey brought to us was good weather. Correct. Welcome, fall. Hello. Appreciate that.
That's
nice
right.
breeze, 65-degree mornings. You can get out and just walk and get a little bit of fresh air. It does wonders. Like, it's amazing just to breathe it in, you know.
Correct.
It changes it changes how you feel. It gets your body moving. It starts to give you a lighter feel about what's going on. It even opens up your mind. I think that that's important. Helps you to burn some calories from those Hurricane Harvey snacks too. So then, and it also feeds your mind. Like I said, that fresh air just helps you to think a little bit.
Well, yeah,
clearer.
what you're doing there is you're actually bringing fresh air. Like you said, you're bringing fresh air. That's actually causing you to start to think better.
Yeah.
It's causing you to change the way you think about things because you're taking out the old and bringing in new.
Yeah.
So when we're out in the fresh air, I've joked about this more than once. I tell people, go out, go let the sun wash your face. Because there are times they're so used to sitting inside that they won't allow them. The sun is energy. Take the energy that is natural energy to change the way you think. It changes the way you behave. It changes the way you look at the outlook on things. And then you can go back and be able to move forward progressively.
I like that. Yeah, and I know we talk about a lot of mental support things, and there's not a lot of stuff out there, unfortunately, for mental support. So we really need to take the opportunities to utilize the things that are around us and the things that don't cost us any money.
Correct.
It doesn't cost any money to step outside in the sunshine and get a little bit active, breathe in the fresh air, and give yourself a fresh outlook. So you assess, research for everything that you need. And we're going to give you some financial tips a little bit later, but research those things that you need. We have all kinds of organizations out there that are giving away free everything. You know, a number of folks that I know that may not have known that these resources are available. They're banks, they're credit unions, financial institutions, they're creditors. All of those folks are offering some type of relief. I would encourage you to communicate. This is one of the things most people, when the phone rings, they don't want to answer it. They know they don't have the money, so they ignore the phone calls. I'm going to encourage you to pick up the phone, answer the call, even reach out, because the help is there. And you want to make sure that you get the help. There's no pride in this. This help is there for you, even with those charitable organizations and the different organizations that are out there that are giving away things to those people impacted. These are the things that you've probably sown into and given to someone else. So it's time for you to receive. Be okay with receiving. That's what it's there for. Take advantage of those resources.
It's amazing how many people are blocking their blessings right now.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone earlier today who went through some of the challenges from the storm. And I asked them, I said, you know, take advantage of this, and this. Well, I don't want to do that. And I'm going, wait a minute. So how are you surviving right now? Well, I'm using my credit cards. I'm going, okay, so wait a minute. you have the opportunity to be able to take care of your family with the resources that are available at a lower interest rate than the credit card, but you want to live off of the credit card.
Right.
You have to, again,
Yeah.
there are opportunities here to
Yeah.
help you.
Yeah.
And in many instances, and we'll go into this a little bit later, there are organizations that are deferring payments because
Absolutely.
of the storm.
Absolutely. Pride aside, guys, the resources are there. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be whole. One of the biggest issues is emotional stress because you're financially stressed and because a number of other things are happening. So please, those resources are available. Take advantage of them. Have the communication, answer the phone, and ask for what it is that you need. And that all comes from assessing where you are, what you have, and then doing the research. We will be right back to talk a little bit more about the recovery plan. We are back. Thank you guys for joining us, the Simply Centrell Show. We are talking about after the storm, the recovery plan. It is recovery plan time. It is time for us to now move forward after everything that we have experienced. I want to thank Synergy 1480, the kind of talk that inspires, and I also want to thank Warren Winston here with us for the MBDA. So when we left at the break, we were talking about the recovery plan. Right? We talked about assessing where you are, what you have,
Yes.
because it brings thankfulness and it allows you to see how you need to move forward, right?
Sure.
Then we talked about doing the research. There are a number of organizations out there, your financial institutions, charitable institutions. We're talking about churches. Anything out there that's available to you, we want you to take advantage of them. We want you to know that they're there. They have counseling. They have activities. They have free classes that they're giving out to address your financial, physical, mental, and emotional well-being at this time. And all of those things need to be addressed, right?
Correct.
So now you got all this stuff. And you said earlier, a short pencil beats a
Long memory.
there you go. So now it's time to write it down.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So you can't hold this stuff in your head because we know that you're already battling a whole bunch of other thoughts, right? So put it down on paper. They need to put it down on paper. And having a plan that's not written down does what?
It never manifests itself. It will never manifest.
It will never manifest. So we want to encourage everyone here to make sure, get your notebook, your pen and pad, keep it with you because sometimes you think about things a little bit later and you want to make sure you have that pen and pad with you so that you can note it down right then and there so you don't forget.
So let's think about this.
Yeah.
How often do we forget things just without a stressful situation?
Right.
We forget that without the stress. So now we've got all of this on our plate. That's why it's even more important to write it down.
I like
because this will keep us moving forward progressively and positively versus getting stagnant. Because remember, that stagnant portion or whatever we do, that state that keeps us from moving forward, it causes us to lose momentum and then we start to slip back into our old ways, if you will.
Very good point. So write it down. You've got to write it down. And then the next thing is, once you've written it down, you got to do something about it.
Take action.
It's time to take action. We have talked about taking action in everything in our lives, right?
Correct.
It's the only way that you build better. It's the only way that you move forward. So take action. Now you've got to make the phone calls, right? Now you've got to actually go out, maybe even fill in the applications. Be okay with taking that action. You know, on the other end is the answer to what you need. It's the help. It's receiving those monies, the finances that you need to maybe cover some bills or cover housing costs. Anything that requires you to take action, you need to be ready to do it.
Absolutely.
It's gonna better your situation, right? And then after you take action,
you got to evaluate it and then repeat.
right. So you've taken action, and now you've got to decide whether what you did was the right action.
Correct.
Right? Did you reach out to the right organizations? Did they provide you with what you actually needed? And are there others out there that maybe you missed? Right? Mm-hmm. So you evaluate what you did, how it worked, and whether or not it's something that you need to do again. Right? Or you need to actually take a few extra steps, some that you missed. So there are a lot of applications out there that are a little lengthy. You know, make sure that you're filling them in their entirety. Make sure you're checking the right boxes. I can't tell you how important that is. A number of people have filled out applications and haven't completed them, and then they have to start all over. And you definitely don't want to waste the time. Once you're in it, you want to do it right. So you evaluate what you've done and then evaluate whether or not you need to include that in your plan continuously.
Correct.
And then the last part of the plan is
once we evaluate it and we repeat it,
you got to repeat it.
That's it.
You got to repeat it because this is not a one-time thing, right?
No.
We realized that the hurricane here in Houston happened just a couple weeks ago, and likely we're going to be feeling the ripple effects of this for months, for years. So know that you've written down this plan and you get to evaluate it, you get to tweak it, and then you get to use it again for later. You need to repeat this, and you need to repeat it in every area of your life. You know, we're talking about personal, and then we talked about business. Right. So you need a plan for your personal. You need a plan for your business. This is a recovery plan that can work in both spaces. So you want to make sure that you address both.
Correct.
And give yourself 2 plans. Keep them separate. You've got your family and your house and your cars and things on this end. You've got your business and your products and your services and your customers on this end. 2 plans. Assess, research, write it down,
take action,
evaluate, and repeat.
And I'm going to make a promise. Now, you know it's dangerous when you make promises. Here's the promise. You keep doing that, it becomes a habit.
So now we're building habits. Good habits.
Good habits.
For life. For life. So you can take this plan and you can use it in your life.
Correct.
And in every area. We're not just talking about financial, physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. Use it. These things work. So I like that. I like the recovery plan. I hope that it helps and blesses someone who's going through this right now with all the emotions that you're feeling. You got to try this out.
Correct.
Just try it out. Start writing it out and see. Assess where you are and what you need, and then move through the plan and see how that works for you. So we talked about some of the resources that MBDA has, and I want you to share with us what some of those programs are, things that people can look forward to. And I know MBDA actually partners with a number of other organizations. You guys work collaboratively, and with Hurricane Harvey, a lot of different programs and opportunities have emerged. So share those things with us so that people can have those resources, where they can go.
Absolutely. Aside from the city of Houston and working with the city and working with Houston First and working with various financial institutions across the city, across the state, across the nation, we've been working, of course, with FEMA, and we've also been working with the SBA. The SBA, of course, is instrumental in helping people to obtain loans.
Small Business Administration.
Small Business Administration, yes. The small and what's happening right now is, even though we say Small Business Administration, right now they're not just focusing on businesses.
Right.
They're focusing on businesses. They're focusing on nonprofits. They're focusing on people who have been impacted by the storm. So, for a quick example, just very quickly, if you're a homeowner and you have your home, you can that's been destroyed, you can literally or been damaged, you can get up to $200,000 at a low interest loan for a homeowner, anywhere from 1.75% to 3.5%.
Nice.
An additional $40,000 could be provided just for the materials in your home. So you can be eligible up to $240,000. If you're renting, $40,000.
Gotcha.
Okay, so these are some of the things, but in order to get this, you're going to have to take some action.
Right.
Okay?
You've got to apply. Where do they go?
Apply. So the first thing is you must go to FEMA. Contact FEMA. Go to the website. If you're not familiar with it, it's disasterassistance.gov. Disasterassistance.gov. They're open 7 days a week. You could also find out the information for the local phone number. But they're open at certain hours. But you can go to disasterassistance.gov. Once you've done that, you're in the system. You're registered. By the way, as of this week, there's already 652,000 people that have registered in this area, which is more than Hurricane Sandy.
Wow.
But I'm going to encourage, I don't care what it is, everybody register.
Right.
Because there's going to be a deadline. When the deadline comes up, they're going to shut it down, and then it's going to be too late.
Okay.
Take action. Second thing, file with the SBA for a disaster loan. Now, this is what I say. People say, I don't want a loan. But here's the reality. If you file for the loan, it's up to you to choose whether you want to accept it or not. If it's provided to you.
So
you
apply.
Apply.
Yeah.
Most people will sit back and then at the last minute they'll decide this is what they want to do.
Apply.
Okay?
Apply now.
Apply now, because
Yeah.
the longer you wait, the longer it takes for those that qualify to receive the monies in order to take care of the damage. Right now, it's stretching out. Each day, it gets longer and longer.
Gotcha.
Okay? Those are the two things that we at the MBDA are saying to do that. But we're going one step further. Because we know that people are going through challenges in getting the money right away, because
Yes.
it could be stretched out to 45, 60, 90 days or whatever, I'm going to encourage you, go to your local financial institution and ask them if they have any form of a bridge loan, something that they can give you some money, which they'll turn that around in as little as 48 to 72 hours, because they know that you have the guaranteed monies. They can give you something to get started right away. Take advantage of it. Check with your financial institution. Many of the institutions are working on it now. I'm pushing a lot of institutions to continue to do this, because this is important, not only here in Houston, but in Florida. Okay? If they want to contact me, I'm going to make it simple. The best way is send an email. The email is mbda@hccs.edu. MBDA, Minority Business Development Agency, MBDA @hccs.edu.
Hope you're writing this down.
Because that way we'll be able to help assist folks. We're moving all over the city. We're doing a lot of things in our office. But this way we'll make sure that we'll be able to address the people, give them the information they need, and be able to forward it if we need to the right people.
Great. Thank you, Warren. Now, I have a quick question. We have a number of people that watch the show, not just in Houston. And you mentioned Florida. Is there an MBDA in other states?
Yes, they're in 40 states. So in Florida, it's in Orlando and in Miami.
Awesome. So not just for those people in Houston, check out MBDA in your local area. There are a number of places out there that are experiencing natural disasters. We know that. These are resources available to you. FEMA, SBA, MBDA, along with all of the other organizations that you've been taking advantage of, whether that's American Red Cross, your local churches, other charities. They are out there. They have resources. Please make sure that you take a look at those. Remember the recovery plan. You are assessing, researching, writing it down. You must write it down, make it a part of you, and then you're going to take action, evaluate, and then repeat. So we have had a great show, Warren. I want to thank you for coming out.
My
We
pleasure.
appreciate that. The information is much needed. We appreciate all of you who tuned in to the Simply Centrell show. I invite you to continue to like, share, follow at Simply Centrell on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And make sure you check out Synergy 1480, the kind of talk that inspires. We'll see you next time.